What's up guys, Lifting here. After having tested out Blade Flurry for the past few weeks, I now present the final build guide. Just as a fair warning though, the build can get fairly expensive and so I do not recommend this for beginners, unless you really know how to make currency fast. So far I've been able to easily deal with all tier 15 map bosses. I've killed the guardians, even the poison and bleed immune ones, but to be fair, not every run has been deathless. Can it kill Shaper? Yeah, maybe. I don't see why not, but me personally, I haven't. I got him to about 10% in phase 3, and then I got destroyed and I had no more keys to try over again, so yeah. But I'm sure you guys can do it. Let's talk defenses. First of all, the final build has about 302% increased maximum energy shield when you count in the 15% that is converted from life, and the extra 59% you get from intelligence in the skill tree. The great thing about energy shield based characters is that due to their very large effective health pool, they are more likely to survive typical one-shot boss attacks and crazy map mod rares. Our character also picks up Chaos Inoculation, which effectively reduces your life to 1, but makes you immune to chaos damage. Luckily, we don't care about life since we are energy shield based. Furthermore, because of the great leech potential via Blasphemy and Warlord's Mark, and the very rapid hitting nature of Blade Flurry, you will be able to almost instant leech back to full energy shield when engaging monsters and even bosses sometimes. That said, Life Leech doesn't apply to energy shield unless you pick up the Ghost River Keystone, so yeah, we do that. Oh, and to give you more of an instant leech effect and to protect you against reflect damage, we also pick up Volpact down here. That said, even with Volpact and Leech, you probably shouldn't try to do physical reflect maps. I have a feeling that will end poorly for you, so yeah, don't. You won't have any issues with roaming reflect grass though. An energy shield based character won't benefit from life flasks, so instead you have to use various utility and power flasks, and these are very important for the build. So since you have no need for life flasks and you leech enough mana to sustain the cost of your skill, I instead recommend you use first of all a Surgeon's Silver Flask of Staunching. This will give you more attack and movement speed and help you remove bleed. Then an Atziri's Promise for a massive damage and leech boost. Then a Granite Flask until you can get yourself a Taste of Hate, as they both provide awesome protection against physical damage. Then a Kiara's Determination, and this flask is very important unless you actually like being frozen and stunned all the time, and my guess is that you don't. And it is a silver flask too, so it also adds some attack and movement speed. It doesn't stack with your regular silver flask though, so don't use them at the same time unless you have to. Finally, for even more damage, get yourself a Lion's Roar. This flask adds quite a lot of damage, but even cooler, it also gives your attacks knockback, which makes it so that bleeding monsters will take more damage every time they are knocked back, as it counts as them moving when they're being knocked back, so pretty neat. And I'm gonna say this again guys, do not fucking underestimate the right flasks for this build, it makes the entire difference. As a matter of fact, I'd suggest the first thing you invest into when transitioning over to CI is to get yourself the Kiara's Determination flask, otherwise you'll get stunned and frozen. Don't worry about getting yourself a Taste of Hate until very late in the game, it isn't necessary for the build, it's just a nice buff. Now in this video I'm running around with the 6 link. This is in no way required for the build to perform well, even in the high level maps. A 5 link will carry you most of the way. If you intend on doing the Guardians, Uber Atziri or the Shaper, then of course you may want to start considering upgrading it to a 6 link though. When it comes to it, the most important piece of equipment for a Blade Flurry character is your weapon. Unlike something like Blade Vortex, which scales with levels, Blade Flurry is an attack which mainly scales with your weapon. I tried a few different weapons while testing, but I always ended up going back to the Bino's kitchen knife. It isn't the highest DPS weapon nor the fastest, but it has high crit, great multiplier, more damage over time, and it spreads poison, so yeah, it's hard to beat. That said, if you have a super high physical DPS fast attacking dagger with good crit, then sure, it may be better, but it has to be pretty damn good for it to compete. And so before we continue, let me quickly explain why the assassin. And I do love my assassins. So first of all, due to the unstable infusion notable, we generate 3 power charges. And secondly, with Deadly Infusion and 5 power charges together with the Bino Dagger, we get fairly close to the crit cap. Also, the 8% extra crit multiplier per power charge is pretty sweet, of course. Also, you can pick up an additional power charge by the Witch, but I left it out intentionally, since being crit capped makes it harder for us to actually generate power charges. Being close to crit capped is in this case better, and it saves us 2 skill points. Finally, by picking up Noxious Strike and Toxic Delivery, we gain a massive boost to our damage over time effects such as Bleed and Poison, and well, with Noxious Strikes you can now apply Bleed and Poison, so that's pretty great, right? These 2 Ascendancy nodes together with Adder's Touch and a Void Heart Ring with a decent poison roll makes your Bleed and Poison application very effective and reliable. Alright, so now that you have the basic build mechanics introduced, let's talk about some of the challenges or problems you may encounter while playing this type of build. First of all, you may find yourself in need of extra strength and dexterity in order to level up your skill gems, and so you may have to temporarily spec into the 30 notables until you can get the required amount on your gear. Secondly, transitioning safely into Chaos Inoculation and completely relying on Energy Shield based gear can first of all be a little confusing if you're new to the game, but then again I don't suggest this guide to new players. But it can also be fairly risky in the early levels of the transitioning, if you're playing hardcore at least. So because of that, I highly suggest that you level as life based and pick up the various life nodes you pass by in the skill tree until you can then later reliably transition into CI. I personally recommend speccing into CI around level 69. With decent gear and your discipline aura up, you should aim to have a minimum of 6,500 energy shield at this point, and preferably more. You can probably also get away with a lower amount, but it's not going to feel very good, at least not if you progress into the mid-tier maps. Now, I have posted a link of Cisaran showing how to craft some budget energy shield gear in the description of the video. Check it out in case you're interested, it may help you out. When it comes to rare items, you need to get as much energy shield as possible, especially on your chest, shield and your helmet, as these are the ones that can provide the highest rolls. Then flat physical damage on your gloves and jewelry, and attack speed if possible, while of course making sure your items have enough elemental resistances to cap you on Merciless. You probably also have to get extra intelligence and strength on some of your gear in order to fully level your gems. Getting attack speed is a luxury, so don't worry about that if you can't find or afford gear with that. And I've mentioned a few of the unique items this build uses already, but I still need to bring up the Heretic's Veil helmets, as only with this equipped will you be able to run both curses together with Discipline. Before that, just stick to using Warlord's Mark and Discipline. Once you have your Heretic's Veil on and you activate both your curses and Discipline, you will barely have enough mana to cast Blade Flurry. To solve this, you can add a level 2 or 3 Enlightened gem to the setup, or pick up the -4 mana reservation node near CI. You still won't have a lot of mana, but you will have enough to effectively attack with Blade Flurry as long as you leech damage back via Warlord's Mark. Finally, to effectively convert some of your life into energy shield, you're also going to need an energy from within jewel and place it near the melting cluster here on the tree. And I will link all of the gear my character is currently wearing in the forum post, so if you're confused, simply try to get some rare items with similar affixes to mine. And that's it guys, I hope this serves to get you started with the build. Check the forum guide for details and make sure to check the CI gearing video by Sis I've linked in the description. Subscribe for more Path of Exile, thank you for watching, and bros, do you even nerd?